You think you lack discipline. You don't. What you lack is honesty, the kind that can stand in front of a mirror and admit that every day you negotiate your own downfall. You wake up with plans to conquer the world and lose to a pillow. You promise yourself change and then bargain it down until it feels comfortable again. And every time you give in, the voice inside that wanted more gets a little quieter. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to work harder. It's about ending the endless conversation between who you want to be and who you've settled for. Because right now, that negotiation is the reason your potential is still on the leash. You've confused thinking about the battle with fighting it. You've mistaken guilt for growth. You scroll motivational videos, feel a spark of inspiration, and call it progress. But sparks don't forge swords. Heat does. The truth is, nobody ever taught you the mechanics of discipline. They told you to try harder, as if effort alone could reprogram a system that's been hijacked since birth. You're not lazy. You're running on corrupted code. Every app, every comfort, every shortcut has rewired your brain to crave reward without effort. You've been trained to lose. But there's another way, an ancient way. The samurai called it Kushin Ryū, a principle that doesn't rely on willpower at all. Instead, it turns pain into momentum, effort into instinct, and resistance into flow. A system so simple it feels like cheating, yet powerful enough to rewire everything about how you experience difficulty. Before you can master it, you need to understand one truth. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. And right now, your system is built to fail. The pleasure disease. Your brain has been hijacked without your permission. And the enemy didn't need chains or weapons, just comfort. Every app on your phone, every notification sound, every scroll has one goal: to make you need the next hit. Behind every design choice sits a team of neuroscientists whose only mission is to keep you addicted, not to a substance, but to the illusion of progress. They've turned your attention into a slot machine. Hold to refresh. Maybe this time, something good. Pull again. Maybe now. The sound, the vibration, the little red bubble, it's not harmless. It's engineered pleasure. Your ancestors had to fight, bleed, and sweat for the same chemical you get by double tapping a screen. For them, dopamine was the prize at the end of suffering, the fire after the hunt, the shelter after the storm. Effort first, reward second. That was the law written into your biology. But modern life inverted that order. Now, dopamine is free, unlimited pleasure, no struggle required. Wake up, scroll. Bored, scroll. Lonely, scroll. Reward, reward, reward. No effort in between. Your brain can't tell the difference between earned and unearned pleasure. And when pleasure becomes cheap, meaning becomes expensive. Every comfort you indulge in without effort kills a fragment of your edge, the part of you built to conquer, to create, to endure. You call it self-care. You call it rest. But comfort isn't recovery. It's atrophy disguised as peace. Think about it. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the lie that you can have reward without sacrifice. And each repetition weakens you. The more you escape effort, the harder effort becomes. The longer you stay soft, the sharper the world feels against your skin. The truth no one tells you is this: the world isn't destroying your potential. You are, one easy choice at a time. Comfort is a silent poison. It feels warm when it enters, but it eats you alive slowly. It numbs the hunger that once drove you. You stop chasing because the chase feels unnecessary. Why hunt when everything's delivered? Why strive when mediocrity already feels rewarding? You don't notice the decay because it's quiet. Comfort kills with a whisper, not a scream. It tells you you're fine. You've earned this, it says. You deserve to rest. But every moment spent in that softness is another degree of separation from the person you could have been. The world praises your balance, your self-love, your mental health. But behind those comforting words is an invisible cage, one that keeps you safe, small, and docile. The pleasure disease isn't about feeling good. It's about forgetting what it costs to feel good. And the longer you live in it, the more allergic you become to anything that hurts, anything that challenges, anything that requires patience. You've been conditioned to flinch at the very process that builds you. They've hacked the reward. They've removed the pain. And now, your brain believes you're winning, even as your soul starves to death. But here's the thing. Diseases have cures, and this one begins when you stop fighting your weakness and start understanding it. Because the problem isn't that you resist pain. It's that you've been taught to fight it the wrong way. The resistance paradox. Every Monday you declare war on yourself. This week, everything changes. You force yourself out of bed, swear off distractions, and march into battle with your own nature. For 2 days, maybe 3, you win. Then it hits. Exhaustion, irritation, resistance, so heavy, it feels like gravity itself is pulling you backward. You call it laziness. You call it lack of motivation. But what you're really feeling is physics. The harder you push against your own instincts, the harder they push back. It's Newton's third law, applied to the human soul. Every I have to creates an equal and opposite I don't want to. You've been treating discipline like war, when in truth it's judo. You don't overpower resistance. You redirect it. When you wake up saying, I have to work out, your brain interprets it as a threat. The words themselves trigger cortisol, the chemical of avoidance. Have to means imprisonment. Have to means something's being taken from you. So you fight yourself before you've even moved. You've created an internal enemy, and then blamed yourself for losing to it. The ancient Taoists called this self-defeat, the sickness of striving. Their cure was Wu Wei, effortless action, not passivity, not laziness, but movement aligned with natural rhythm. The river doesn't fight the rock, it flows around it. The archer doesn't command the arrow, he becomes it. The samurai doesn't battle his nature, he merges with it until effort becomes instinct. When you say, I get to, instead of I have to, the battlefield disappears. I have to train becomes I get to strengthen my body. I have to work becomes I get to build my future. The same task, the same effort, different physics. This isn't motivational fluff. It's neurological leverage. Your brain doesn't resist effort. It resists meaninglessness. When effort becomes exploration, resistance dissolves. The energy that once fought you begins to carry you. Gohan discovered this by accident. After burning out from months of self-punishment, he stopped forcing discipline and started following curiosity. Instead of commanding himself to train, he asked, how strong can I get today? Suddenly, the weight of obligation lifted. The same routines that once drained him began to excite him. He stopped counting days and started collecting data. Progress wasn't demanded, it was discovered, and that's the paradox of resistance. The moment you stop trying to overpower yourself, you start to understand yourself. Force creates friction. Flow creates freedom. You can't fight nature and win, but you can learn its rhythm and ride it until movement becomes effortless. But even when you master flow, one obstacle remains: pain, the burn in your muscles, the pressure in your chest, the voice that says this hurts. Stop. Flow helps you start, but pain decides whether you continue. And ancient warriors discovered a way to turn that pain into power. Kushin, the painful joy. Pain isn't the enemy, it's the language of transformation. You've just forgotten how to read it. Look at anyone who's truly alive, not just existing but alive. They've all bled for something. The scars on their body, the losses in their heart, the failures behind their success. Those weren't punishments, they were tuition, because growth demands payment, and the currency is suffering. Now look at someone who's spent life avoiding struggle, comfortable, careful, always safe. Their body might be fine, but their spirit, starved. When life gets too easy, your edges rot. The samurai knew this. They didn't seek pain out of masochism. They sought it because they understood what it forged. This is Kushin, the painful joy. Not pleasure despite pain, but pleasure through it. The joy that comes from realizing the burn in your muscles isn't weakness leaving, it's strength arriving. Every rep, every failure, every scar, construction, not destruction. Gohan finally learned this when his mentor asked him one question that shattered everything. What if this pain isn't punishment, but proof? It clicked. The ache in his chest after a hard run wasn't exhaustion. It was expansion. The soreness in his legs wasn't a signal to stop. It was the body building armor. For the first time, he didn't run from the burn. He chased it, because now pain wasn't something happening to him. It was something happening for him. Your brain interprets pain based on context. Touch fire. Pain means danger. Lift weight. Pain means progress. The sensation is identical, but the story changes everything. Warriors mastered this mental alchemy. They rewrote their instinctual response from avoid to adapt. And once that reframe happens, everything changes. The same world that once felt hostile becomes a training ground. Each obstacle becomes material for mastery. Pain stops being a wall and becomes a doorway. You stop seeking comfort and start seeking challenge. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because you finally understand what it gives you. True warriors didn't crave peace. They craved the process that made peace possible. Musashi said, "Train as if in battle." Not for battle, but as battle, because every moment of struggle is transformation in real time. When you reach that point, something remarkable happens. Pain becomes joy. Effort becomes identity. Discipline becomes self-respect. And once you've tasted that kind of growth, comfort feels like decay. But even with this new mindset, there's a missing piece: momentum. Because understanding pain won't save you if you keep stopping. To truly live Kushin, you must learn to flow like water. Unstoppable, unhesitating, automatic. That's where the next principle begins. The current of discipline. Ryu, the current of discipline. Discipline isn't about control, it's about current. And once you enter it, you realize something shocking. The current doesn't care whether you feel ready. It only cares that you start. Most people never build momentum because they waste all their energy deciding, should I work out now or later? Should I write today or tomorrow? Should I start now or after I eat? Every one of those tiny questions burns glucose, literal brain fuel. By the time you're done debating, you're too drained to act. That's why you can crush your diet all day and destroy it at 9 p.m. You're not weak, you're empty. Ancient warriors understood this instinctively. The Zen archer doesn't decide to draw his bow after 10,000 repetitions. His arm simply moves. The act becomes identity. There's no thought, no hesitation, only flow. The archer doesn't think about discipline. He is discipline. That's Ryu, the current of continuous motion. It's not about force or motivation. It's about eliminating the decision point entirely. The moment you start negotiating, you've already lost. Ryu removes negotiation from the system. Action flows into action, not through willpower, but through design. Gohan discovered this the hard way. For weeks he'd argue with himself before every training session. Should I train now or later? Should I rest one more day? Each choice felt heavy. Then one morning, something strange happened. Without thinking, his body just moved. He stood, tied his shoes, and began to train. No debate, no dread, no decision. It was as if he'd been carried by an invisible current, and once he was moving, the resistance vanished completely. Here's the secret. Motion creates momentum, and momentum kills resistance. You don't need to feel motivated to move. You need to move to feel motivated. Start with the 2-minute entry. Tell yourself, I'll train for 2 minutes. That's it. No pressure, no expectations. 2 minutes isn't threatening, so your brain doesn't resist. But once you start, physics takes over. Objects in motion stay in motion. 2 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes 30. Not through force but flow. That's the genius of Ryū. It weaponizes laziness. It tricks your resistance into silence by making the first step too small to argue with. Then, once you're moving, the current carries you further than effort ever could. Soon you stop asking, should I? And start saying. You stop thinking of effort as optional and start seeing it as inevitable. And when that happens, discipline becomes your default state. Not a daily battle, but a natural rhythm. But flow without structure is chaos. To become unstoppable, the current needs form. A system that transforms movement into mastery. That's where the 3 pillars of Kushin Ryū complete the transformation. The complete system. Kushin Ryū isn't 3 separate ideas, it's one living system. A cycle of pain, flow, and motion that forges identity. When these principles merge, you don't try to be disciplined anymore. You simply are. Most people fail because they rely on emotion to move them. They wait for inspiration. They depend on good days. They chase the perfect moment. But warriors don't wait for mood. They follow method. The system comes first. The feeling follows. The first pillar is the dawn protocol. The hardest thing happens first. Not later. Not after coffee. Not once I'm ready. The moment your feet hit the floor, you move toward discomfort. When your mind is still fogged with sleep, it's too tired to negotiate. Before your thoughts can talk you out of it, you've already begun. That's the trapdoor out of hesitation. Once you've conquered the hardest task before sunrise, the rest of the day feels like a victory lap. The second pillar is progressive loading. Yesterday's maximum becomes today's minimum. Never stop on round numbers. They're psychological cages. If everyone else does 10 push-ups, you do 10 and 1. If everyone runs a mile, you run a mile and 10 steps. The point isn't the number, it's the mindset. The refusal to stop where comfort begins. Those small overflows create exponential growth. Consistency compounds. And the third pillar, the one modern life destroys, is pleasure delay. Reward comes after, never before. Coffee after the workout. Entertainment after the work. Comfort after conquest. This reverses the chemical corruption modernity infected you with. It restores the ancient sequence. Effort first, reward second. Within weeks, your brain relearns the truth. That pleasure without cost feels hollow. You begin to crave the burn, because it earns you the right to rest. Together, these 3 pillars form a closed loop. Pain builds momentum. Momentum builds flow. Flow redefines pain. And when that loop stabilizes, the person you were dissolves. The hesitation, the doubt, the negotiation, gone. You no longer push yourself through life. You're pulled by a current stronger than mood or motivation. You stop relying on willpower, because willpower is a battery. The current is a river. It never runs out. After 30 days of living this system, you won't recognize the person who needed motivation to begin, because you'll no longer be deciding whether to act. You'll already be in motion. But this transformation ends where it began, with a choice. The choice, tomorrow morning, your alarm will ring. And in that single moment, before thought, before excuses, before the soft voice whispers 5 more minutes, your entire future will be decided. Because that's when the negotiation begins again. The same one you've been losing for years. The battle between who you are and who you could be. And make no mistake, It's not about the workout, or the project, or the morning routine. It's about the system you're feeding. Every time you give in to comfort, you reinforce the belief that weakness gets a vote. Every time you act despite resistance, you silence that voice a little more. Discipline isn't built in grand moments. It's forged in the invisible ones, the quiet seconds when no one's watching, when no one will praise you. Those are the seconds that decide the direction of your life. Kushin Ryū isn't mythology. It's physics. You either flow or you decay. You're either growing harder or growing softer. You're either building momentum or breaking it. Life doesn't pause while you figure it out. It's moving with or without you, and the river doesn't wait. The truth is, the world will always reward your softness. It will tell you that comfort is self-love, that peace means avoiding the burn, that balance is happiness. But the people who build the world, the artists, the warriors, the visionaries, they know better. They know that peace isn't found in comfort. It's found in capacity. The ability to carry the weight without breaking, to face the pain, and still move forward. That's real freedom. You already know what needs to be done. You've known for years. You've just been waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. There is no perfect moment, only motion. So when that alarm rings tomorrow, don't think, don't negotiate. Enter the current. 2 minutes. That's all it takes to break gravity. 2 minutes to prove that the version of you that quits is no longer in control. Discipline isn't punishment. It's the highest form of self-respect. And the current is waiting. The only question left is, are you?